I'm thinking about playing the guitar that I just bought, and I'm stuck doing this video.
Hello and welcome. So today I have Tim. He's an INFJ, and I'm an ENFP. If you're new to this channel, and we're gonna talk a little bit about what it's like to be in a relationship with each other. Um, so yeah. So Tim, why don't you go ahead and start off by telling us what you think it means to be an INFJ?
I mean, from what she tells me, I'm just a recluse, and I don't really know. I don't know. I haven't studied Meyer-Briggs or Myers-Briggs or whatever. But I just kind of know what my personality is like, and the things she tells me what an INFJ is, it just, I don't know, correlates with me. I'm definitely, I wouldn't say introverted. I mean, probably more so, but introverted, extroverted, I don't know. I mean, I feel like everyone has a median. You're not just one or the other. Um, I'm definitely mainly like I need my solitude, alone time to kind of like recharge. Like even doing a video like this is just kind of weird to me. I'm not used to it. Um, but yeah, I mean, I definitely just mainly think a lot. Um, I'm much more aware of the outside world and inside, like what's going on, how my inside perceives the outside, if that makes sense. But yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. That's these questions, though. These questions, you need.
Putting him on the spot.
I need time.
Yeah, yeah. So let's just put it back like on topic for what I was originally gonna what I told him it was gonna be about before I threw all these random questions at him. So he had actual time to prepare. What is it like being in a relationship with me?
It's the most wonderful thing in the world, and I couldn't ask for a better experience in my entire existence.
Okay, now let's break it down a little bit more.
Um, I mean, I don't really have much to complain about other than her lack of cleaning, because I just feel like after years of just kind of subtly or sometimes very actively saying like, hey, if you make a mess, clean it up, or don't leave your crap on like the kitchen table or whatever. Bring your purse and your coat up to your room, like, and you could make that as cluttered as you want because I don't have to see it. So other than the cleanliness, really the only other thing is just letting yourself get taken advantage of by other people. Um, you're just too optimistic. I mean, I don't even want to say that I have a pessimistic outlook anymore, but I'm definitely a realist, and I know how to look into people to see like what their intentions are, and then I act accordingly. Um, just whatever, like eye contact. I'm seeing if what they're saying, if I'm able to kind of like see if they're contradicting themselves with just even the next couple minutes of conversation, and then from there I could just kind of depict if they're lying or if they're not sincere, and just their personality, how they respond. And I mean, it is very subjective because people are constantly adapting. So I don't like just stereotyping someone based off of just a very brief conversation, but just generalistically I could get a really good feel off of people with just having like a small conversation. So with that, I just feel like you just unload yourself on whoever approaches, whoever in a 5 foot radius. Like, you'll tell them everything. You'll just open the gates to just everything, and then they could take advantage of that, or turns out that they're not the person you thought, and then they have blackmail on you, or just stuff like that. So I try to not make her pessimistic, but just more aware. You know, she's just so in her own head in Rainbow World that she just doesn't realize that there are shitty people out there. So, I mean, that's definitely a big thing because she comes to me and, you know, she's distraught or upset because of, you know, a situation that happened or a conversation or whatever that is, you know, having her down. And then I have to just, you know, constantly just tell her, like, this is what you need to be doing or focus on this. And it's freaking, you know, it happens a lot. So I just wish, I guess, like anyone else, that my advice would actually be put into effect. You know, I'm not saying like live by it, but just reflect on it.
But I've gotten better.
I mean, you definitely have. I don't know if I'm just better at portraying my message or you're finally taking it in. Like, it's just been forced down your throat so much that you don't have any room left. It's just full of my bitching, I guess. Yeah.
Pretty much. So let's go to the opposite side. Like, what about me made you want to start dating me in the first place? How did I pass this test of yours?
And I mean, well, okay. I mean, how I'm talking now or how I perceive things, it isn't necessarily the same as it was 4.5 years ago. I mean, for one, I just moved to Denver. My life was changing a lot. And, you know, I wanted to, you know, explore, you know, myself and other people because I wasn't in a small town where everyone was just kind of, you know, there's just like a scheme to a small town where everyone's kind of the same. And, you know, someplace like Denver, there's just colleges and just every ethnicity and just culture background you could really think of for the most part. But it was just, I don't know. I mean, it felt right, just the circumstances in which we met. Just kind of like, yeah, you know, fate in a sense, or just the stars aligning. You know, I wasn't gonna go out, you weren't gonna go out. Our two mutual friends, you know, kind of like hit it off at some point, and then it's just kind of ironic that we're like the complete opposite of them in a sense, where we're just more reserved and just internal, external. I mean, I don't know, don't construe my words, but I don't know, just meeting you, I liked your personality. I thought you were beautiful. Thought.
See what he did there?
Yeah, and I wanted to get to know you. At the time, I thought that we could have a really good conversation, and then I just led with that, and I just felt something about you. I don't know. I mean, it was definitely just something. You see a person or you talk to a person, and 99 or more percent of the time, you're just kind of like, you know, or at least me, I'm just like, whatever. You know, but with you, something was special.
Aww. I remember, like, just the way that you were, like, we were strategizing together because we were playing adult-sized Jenga against our two friends, like, and we were kind of like strategizing together, like, hey, if we do this, then we'll make sure that that it'll like make it more likely for them to knock theirs over. So we kept playing like that, and I'm pretty sure we won.
We did win. Of course.
Yeah, even though we were playing against probably
no competition,
the two most competitive people we know.
Yeah.
We beat them
because
we strategized.
Absolutely.
Which is funny because to kind of fill you guys in who are into personality, both the people that we knew, my friend and his friend, they're both extroverted sensing dominance. So that means, like, you know, they're not really like much for strategizing. They're more like in the moment. And so that's kind of part of why I think we hit it off. And I remember our first date, we were at this, oh my gosh, that accent.
The billiards.
We were at this tarantula billiards, which was really cool. We were just playing pool, and we were talking at the bar, and we were just having this like deep philosophical conversation on our like first date.
No, that I don't even think that was really that's not the right word. It was me asking pretty simplistic questions, and Michelle over here would be like, "But why is that?" Like just like your typical like overly cognitive thinking stoner girl or something. Like every question was just this open-ended like one word response or just one statement of just why is that? That's interesting. Like it's just I don't know.
But you didn't shut it down. You tried to answer.
Yeah, because I was stuck there at that point. I was like, all right, maybe I was wrong. But then I think I broke through. I don't know. That's kind of the thing with me. Like, don't judge someone based off of a very brief conversation. So leading to that, I'm like, obviously she has thought. She's not stupid or something. So I just need to approach it in a different way. And then sure enough, I asked better questions, and she had actual responses that I could build off of. Voice crack. 26 years old. And then yeah, we just kept seeing each other more and more, and it's kind of fucked up to say, but I think I shaped her into. I mean, we shaped each other definitely, but from my perspective, is I feel like my person, just her being around me, talking with me, I shaped her into a much more compatible version of herself for me. And I think, the same goes. She's definitely just probed at me and just picked my brain for these years and just like, why do you like this? And why don't you like people? Why are you so negative?
With that voice, exactly.
Yeah, it's both sides. Just, but yeah, and it's definitely made me much more open and I guess more expressive of myself, emotions, and yeah, just more I guess accepting and willing to put myself out there. Because the me from probably even like a year and a half ago wouldn't have done this. I'd probably just said like hell no, I'm playing video games and drinking or something, and it would have never happened. So yeah.
What do you think causes the most arguments for us?
Probably the tonality of our voices. Definitely, I'll like ask something, I'll request something very just whatever, passive, not thinking about it at all, and then how you take it is just like me attacking you or something, or yelling at you, or calling you out on doing something silly. And then you just respond by raising your voice and getting sassy, and I'm just like, and it just leads to just me getting angry because I'm just like, this was just fucking avoidable, and you just turned it into an argument. Even though, I mean, yeah, obviously I got angry too, and I could have just remained calm, but I was calm until you raised your voice, and then from there, I raised my voice, and now we're fighting. So I think that's the main, like, it doesn't even, it could just be like, why did you leave the bathroom light on? Or hey, can you turn the bathroom light off? Or hey, did you drip the faucets at night or something? Or did you drip the faucets before you got in bed? It should be like, of course, like just that sad, like it just like drills into my ears and just like punches my brain. I'm just pissed.
But sometimes the questions you ask are, why didn't you? Or like, why didn't you do this?
Yeah, it's a simple answer.
And I think something that causes frustration for me is when you ask me to explain something that I don't have the answer to. Like, we were watching this movie, for example. We were watching Pandemonium or Pandorum? Pandorum. It's a sci-fi movie. And at the end, I'm not, spoilers,
It's from
said...
like 2004
well, whatever, I'll be more vague. I said that, like, I had a thought that ending might happen. That's all I said. I said I thought that might happen. And he comes in like, oh, really? What evidence made you believe that would happen? And I was
she didn't
like,
have any. So I'm just like, you could literally just say anything you want after it happens, and then just like, oh, well, clearly this was gonna happen. Like, why?
See, and my thought was like, if I had like been telling you the whole movie, every single thought that crossed my mind,
No.
it would have driven you mad.
No, at some point, like halfway through when you had a reasonable suspicion, you bring up like, oh hey, like what they're floating in space, like the power has been off or something. Like how have they been able to like breathe? Is the oxygen still in? Are they running out of oxygen? Like why are they, not being why isn't it like reflecting, like the characters themselves, like they're gasping for breath or it's harder to breathe or whatever. Like just an example like that. I mean, that was a shitty one, but like an example, but for you, it's just you wait to the very end and you're like, yep, that's exactly what I thought. And it's
I
just,
didn't say exactly. Though.
well, whatever. But it's like the thought comes off of just like, well, why do I even care? But it's just like I want to know. Like I want to. It's like I like just calling people out, I guess, for their bullshit. And I mean, we definitely were all, hypocrites at times, and we all just bullshit essentially. So, but it's fun. I guess it's just fun. Like, is it sociopathic? I don't know, but it's just fun to call people out, and then they're like, well, and then it's just like, fuck you,
Yeah, actually, I was watching an interview with this girl who has the same personality type.
Is him or
yeah, as him, and she was saying that like whatever emotion she has, she expresses it like right then. So she doesn't harbor things. Like things don't bother her long term. She's like in the moment most of the time with her emotions like that. And she says things that upset her in the moment, which makes her seem like more reactive than she is, but that's because of like that extroverted sensing, like what they are is what they do on the outside.
That's what I mean with the person that like the extroverted intuition or introverted intuition, blah blah blah. Like people are capable of doing anything. So it's, to me, this whole idea of personality types is kind of bullshit. And it's kind of, I mean, I love you and I respect what you're doing, but for me, just how I perceive all of this, anyone is capable of being anything or doing anything, reacting any type of way. Sure, I do believe that there are personality types, but very, very subtle. Not where it's just like, if you're these four letters, you're just 90% out of the time you're going to be acting in this specific manner. Like, I don't believe that at all. Because there's been plenty of times where I'm like the life of the party or whatever, like super outgoing and just talkative. And then there's other times when I hate everyone and don't want to be here, and and then just other times where I'm purely focused on the outside world, and other times when I'm just only feeling like parts of my body, and like my thoughts. And so it's come and go. You're susceptible to change, susceptible to adapting based on the present situation. And I mean, that makes sense to me. It doesn't make sense. It's almost limiting in a sense, trying to work on my stupid Midwestern accent.
Say accent again.
Accent. But it is limiting to me to focus on just these traits. So, and that's just limiting. If you're thinking that's your spectrum, that's your realm in which you can work with, in which you can operate with, then it's going to hold you back astronomically for future growth, development, mentally, physically, whatever.
No, I actually agree with that, and that's definitely one of the things that can happen with learning about MBTI. And I think I do a poor job explaining it to you as well, because I just get excited in where I see the matchups that I don't really talk to you about like all the other elements that I think about. But all it does is like express your general cognition. That's what MBTI does. And I think when I'm like, hey, this is an example of someone in their element of their personality, like it sometimes gets taken as like, I mean that all the time, or that they'd always be that way. But I think it just expresses like the generality of how their brain works, like how the cognition works. And there's other things that complicate it, of course, but I think sometimes you can see the very like explicit examples of how they are their personality type in certain things, like his emotional outburst, you know? Like, yeah, he thought about all the things that was wrong in the moment when everything went bad, but he didn't think about it at all beforehand, you know, except in the moment he thought about, like, oh, I should do this now to take care of it. But it was in that moment that everything was falling apart that he realized everything that he did wrong. Which is like, it actually makes more sense because, you know, he's so in the moment that he neglected certain things, and now that he has failed or whatever, he's got more negative emotion.
But that's just
now
the
he's
thing. Like, are you? I mean, how are either of us able to depict whether he was in the moment or looking in the past? I mean, that's just you're like playing this other role by looking at these basic scenarios or just the little pieces of information you have and theory crafting off of it. You know what I mean? It's just, it's not up to us to determine someone's personality, to determine what someone is. You know? Like, I don't know if he was looking in the past, which then was leading him into this moment of just the outburst, or if he was just in the moment as this negative thing happened where he realized that he doesn't have a license, so he can't rent the car that he promised his sister, which then led him to just looking back on all this stuff. But isn't both scenarios the same thing? You know what I mean? Like, it's just so diluted. You know, there's no clear distinction. So that's what I mean. The whole personality thing. It's nice. It's kind of cool how you could relate to other people. It's just a means of bringing people together. It's a hobby, like someone who's into sports, someone who's into music, cars, anything. It's just a reason to socialize, to bring people together of similar interests. So I don't think it's like learning about personalities as much as it is about just relating to other people. That's how I perceive all of this.
Yeah. Well, and like, I guess like I have ulterior motives when I like say things because I'm trying to help you see like, you know, why certain things happen so you can be more understanding. And like you're just like, no, this is what happened. Like it doesn't matter. Like, and so like I'm just failing at my ulterior motives because like I think you like I'm not expressing what my actual motive is. I'm just like putting information out there. And
I'm not trying to attack this at all. Like
I'm
literally. You asked me to come on here, so I'm just like I'm telling my opinions really on all this. I'm not trying to say like myer-briggs is a lie and you're all silly for looking into this. Like that's not it at all.
I'm just psychoanalyzing myself based on what we've talked about, and like realizing that I should be more honest when I'm like why I'm bringing certain things up.
Oh, who gave you that advice?
But I was trying to think if there's anything else we could bring up. I mean, my main goal of making this video is to kind of show you that, you know, INFJs and ENFPs are not always the most perfect INFJs and ENFPs are not always the perfect compatible matches, and it actually does take a lot of work. Like you could even see how we were, I wouldn't say arguing, but we were bickering a little bit.
Well, I mean, you were wrong, so.
And I think like that gives you like a taste of what can happen like when we get really heated, is it's that kind of like miscommunication. And just like one of us believing that we're both believing that we're right, and we're like refusing to accept the other person's view. And I think that just happens with any relationship. Like it doesn't matter what your personality is. Like things get difficult to communicate to one another because we're two separate people with two separate worldviews and like what he calls a phaneron. Like,
well, yeah, phaneron's your reality. It's just how you perceive, take in, interact with everything that is given to you. it's how you perceive it. Like looking at a tree, you know, what does it make you feel? What do you smell? What do you see from that tree? Just everything. That's like what your Phaneron is. Just literally your individual autonomous existence, basically, that can't be blended with anything other than your own. The hell was I gonna say? I was gonna say
That we're alone and.
oh no,
Oh.
about our bickering. It's like the denial syndrome. Basically, it's like you kind of, I guess, correlating with the Phaneron. You basically have like a set code or commandments or however you want to interpret it, and when you take in something that doesn't mesh with your belief system, it's a part of your like temporal lobe or parietal lobe or something. It kind of sends a message where it's like, this doesn't add up, this doesn't make sense, so you're just going to, you're just going to neglect it. You're not going to take it in because it doesn't add. Jesus, it's 2 in 1 video. I'm potched.
What's funny is his voice almost never breaks.
It never breaks. It really doesn't.
Are you nervous?
No. Damn it! Now I lost my train of thought. But yeah, I know that. But now it takes longer. So yeah, when you take something that doesn't add up, you neglect it. You're in denial. It doesn't add up. So you can't believe it. It can't possibly be the right answer or the right belief because it just doesn't make sense to you, even though it may, or even though it from a third person's perspective, sure, it's totally feasible. Damn, now I feel like it's not making sense what I'm saying.
No, I think I've seen examples of this recently where one person says something that the other person doesn't agree with or doesn't make sense, and the other person gets upset, like, why don't you understand, why don't you believe? And the other one's like, because what you're saying is BS, but really, there's truth in everything. You just have to work together to find that. And sometimes it's really hard because you don't feel like you want to, because it's just so much work sometimes to express your belief system or whatever you believe. And it's just appalling that somebody else wouldn't believe the same way.
So kind of what I've been really reflecting on, taking in, trying to live by is something I read really recently. In this, it's paranormal phenomena, but it's basically just, it's great to be, a skeptic. That's not bad, but when it's like if you don't agree with something and your first impression is to just cut that person out or just not take it in, then there's a problem. Like a healthy skeptic is basically, so when you don't agree with something, you need to probe and figure out why that person or that topic, or I guess it has to come from a person, but why that person has that thought or perceives this whatever A and B in that regard. So it's not just taking it in and then just instantly, spewing it out like it's meaningless. It's more so trying to understand why that person thinks that way, so you can literally understand that person better instead of just completely neglecting the possibility of.
Yeah, what was that quote from that movie, Split? There was a quote before the movie started that was something like, you have to believe what they, people in those kind of conditions, they believe it fully, so you need to believe it in order for them to tell you about it. You need to give that, believe. It's the quote is not making sense because I, immediately, broke it down and put it into an understanding for myself.
I can't remember. It was at the beginning.
Yeah, it was at the beginning, and it was you have to believe what they're saying in order for them to like open up to you about it. Because if you come at them like you don't believe it, they're not going to want to tell you. That's like the basic,
It
like,
makes a lot of sense.
I wish I could remember the actual words, but that's like the basic breakdown of what that meant.
Yeah, I mean, I like that a lot. That's what I mean. In order for twitching,
She's sleeping.
in order for us to just progress socially and psychologically, we have to interact with each other. We have to want to understand people, differing individuality, in differing perspective. Otherwise, nothing is going to get done. And my 2 cents before this video is over is don't stereotype people. Just the idea, I don't know, I guess it contradicts the whole idea of myer-briggs in a sense, like, because you're graphing people, you're putting them on a letter system, but I guess what I mean is just don't classify people, just based off of these very minor details you have, because it's just that's how we have Republicans and Democrats and liberals and gays and transsexuals and like, it's just everything is just classified. We're all just people. Like that's literally it. We're all just people. Doesn't matter if you're a freaking female or a male or literally just bi, trans, whatever. It's just we're all people, and if we start looking at each other as people, then we can do nothing but grow socially, because it's just really petty bullshit that we've been dealing with since the beginning of time. Just racial issues, ethnic issues. It's all based off of stereotyping. Like this Muslim, shot up a theater back in 2010. So like from now on, it doesn't matter if you see a Muslim, you just like literally I'm saying Muslim. You know what I mean? It's really silly and it's regressive. So that's kind of my 2 cents is just try not to stereotype. Just create your own basis of understanding that individual and just think of us all as people.
And I would like to add to that and say push yourself to be around people who are really different from you so that you can broaden your horizons. Because if you stay around people who are exactly like you all the time, you're not going to grow as much, and you're going to become like, because the thing is, you become like the people that you're around, right? And so if you're only around people who are exactly like you, what change are you going to make? You're either going to get stuck and become the same as them, or you're going to have some like wild revelation where you're like way down the road and you're like, shoot, I got stuck. So either way, you're going to get stuck. You're either going to get stuck permanently, or you're going to get stuck to the point where you have this like major revolution and have like a major life change. And to avoid having to get to that point, just put yourself around people who are different from you so you can grow. And with that, I think we're going to cut it off there.
I want to play video games.
Feel free to leave your questions down below if you have more questions for him. I'll try to make him answer some of them. I'll make him comment. He has a YouTube account. He doesn't make any videos right now, but
I creep in the depths, judging everyone in the comment section.
He can respond to your questions if you want. Yeah. Thanks so much for watching. Have a beautiful, amazing, fantastic day. Bye.
Well, what you said, perceive reality.
Right, yeah.